Hey crafty friends, this is Chelsea. Today I'm going to create a double page layout and a card using this sketch from the creative design team's 8.5 by 11 sketchbook. Sketches are a great way to simplify the design process for a layout. I'll be adding some of my usual flair, but in some easy ways that don't take a ton of time. I love that these sketches have measurements, and even though it's 8.5 by 11, I'm going to show you how to translate it to 12 by 12. Creative Design Team also has a 6x8 book. I used this for my December daily last year, and I'm going to have a share video coming up in October showing you the whole completed project because I did not finish it at Christmas last year. So it is finished now, and I will be showing you that very soon. This video is in collaboration with the Creative Design Team. We are showing you one sketch two ways, and all their videos are posted already, so I will have them linked in the playlist at the end of this video. Make sure you go check them out. I have so many fall photos from last year, just some really cute ones that I haven't gotten a chance to scrapbook yet. I haven't done any fall layouts, which is hard to believe. And I have these cute ones. We went to a pumpkin house, and Isabella had such a great time playing pretend. I just let her run around, and she had such a good time. So I wanted to scrapbook those. And then I was looking for what to use. Well, I have the Good Life paper pack, which I haven't even touched yet. And I thought these two patterns would go really well and make the oranges in my photos really pop. The blue color is Harbour, and I really love this distressed background. And I thought it just might mix well with some other papers. So I have this collection. This is Gnomes for Autumn. Haven't barely touched it yet. And there's some really good stickers on this, but the paper didn't really go with what I was thinking. I also pulled out Cozy Up. Like I said, I haven't done a ton of fall scrapbooking, so I have all these like full collections or partial collections that I've been meaning to work with. Some good stickers in here, but what really caught my eye was this orange pattern. It has subtle words, kind of like text in the background with different fall words on it. And so I thought these three together would be perfect for those three stripes of paper, those three chunks of paper in the sketch. I don't always mix collections. Actually, usually I grab one pack, use whatever's in that pack, but this was going to just work so much better for me. So my go-to for backgrounds, I never have to question, is grab white. Now these papers have French vanilla in them, so I'm going to use French vanilla for my base page. And I figured since I have three patterns going on, I don't want to put another pattern on there in the background. So I'm trying to figure out which one should go where. Well, when I look at these patterns, I'm looking for which one looks the heaviest. So that could be the busiest pattern, the darkest pattern. To me, that Harbour check is the heaviest, so it should be at the bottom. And then the distressed one has a lot of French vanilla, so I didn't want to put that at the top because I thought I might lose it. It would just kind of fade into the background. So my solution was to do it this way, with the orange at the top and that distressed pattern in the middle. Now I wanted to show you this step because lots of times I will do this when I'm trying to figure something out. Since I know I'm stretching this sketch to 12 by 12, I'm going to have extra room on there, and I take a lot of vertical like portrait photos, so I'm always looking for ways to work more of those in. And I wanted to use the photo placement that was on the sketch, but then I want to add to it. So for the right hand side here, I could repeat those exact photo placements and just have two side by side like this. Just repeat it. That would be fine. It would be a little bit more interesting if I flipped them so that I would have the portrait photos offset from each other and the landscape offset. And then I was like, well, I could also play with it and flip this around and make the bottom one landscape and have more of a tiered look, kind of like stepping up. And I thought that way I'll still have room for the embellishments that are on my sketch. And then I'll also have room for some journaling right there. Now you could do this process with your actual photos if you were trying to map it out like this and figure out where your photos were going. However, if you don't have them printed yet, those photo placeholders work really good as a quick way where you can just play around with different placements and see what you think. Now here I decided to cut photo mats because I love matting my photos. I used Mocha cardstock and I cut all of them at like 4x6 and 3x4 exactly because that way you maximize your paper usage the best. But I want to distress them a little bit. They looked pretty stark next to my other papers. And just with sanding lightly along those edges, I didn't over sand it too much, just right along the edges, just brighten them right up. Now I'm going to continue sanding these off camera while I tell you the exciting news that the Creative Design Team's 31 Days of Christmas Card event is open for early bird registration right now. We are so excited for this month-long class. There's going to be a new technique focused video every day in October. These cards are from a previous year's event, so there will be all new techniques and designs to inspire you. We encourage you to use your stash and make cards along with us, so by the end of the month, you have a great selection of Christmas cards that are ready to send. Early bird pricing ends this week, September 20th, so make sure you sign up soon, and at checkout, click the little plus sign where it says add coupon code and enter CDT Earlybird 23 before you complete your transaction. Everything will be linked down below in the description box for you. Now back to our layout. I did all the sanding of my edges, wiped off those mats with a paper towel just to get the residue off, and then adhered my photos. And I just adhered them on flat. I just have to figure out now exactly placement on my pages, where they need to go, of course, following the sketch. I did go ahead and create my title. I did a print then cut in Cricut Design Space, and I wasn't sure if I'd want to add some dimension, so I also cut out the word pumpkin in pumpkin cardstock, and I figured I could cut it out and I could always glue it on, even offset, so that I have a little bit of that dark brown, the mocha brown shadow to it. And I thought that looked really cool. I was like, okay, I'll just put it on my page and kind of think about it. I couldn't decide right off the bat. Now, speaking of print then cut, I also created a bunch of embellishments. So typically this is where I would dig out my stamps, and I do have a ton of stamps I want to use. But I had created this ephemera as a gift for anyone who placed an order on my website this week from September 16th to the 22nd. So I had cut one to test it out, and I had it sitting on my desk, and I thought it would go perfectly with this layout and with this paper pack. I am playing around with placement. This is a great way to cut some time off your scrapbooking process, is to use die cut ephemera like this, or do a whole bunch of stamping and die cutting and coloring ahead of time, and then you have those pieces just sitting on your desk waiting to go onto your layout. I actually have a little set of Sterilite drawers on top of my desk where I keep extra stamped images, die cut images, and it is perfect for that use. Now I grabbed my Paprika ink and an ink blending brush, and I felt like the title needed some color behind it. And I'm kind of going back and forth between adding that orange layer to the title or leaving it off. So I figured I'll add this color behind the title and then see how it looks, because then maybe there will be that orange element that I want without having to like painstakingly glue that layer on top. And yes, I definitely could reprint and cut that title again and change the color of that word pumpkin to orange before I did it, but I just didn't want to have to go back over that process again. I am really taking my time here putting on the color because I don't want to get like really dark splotches. I'm trying to blend it out very softly and evenly and have it really fade out to nothing. So you can see how I tap it on my scrap paper. That's just to get that initial kind of blob of ink off so that when I touch my paper, I'm not getting big circles on there. I want it to be very soft and diffused. And that's actually one of my favorite things about using blending brushes is you can get that super soft look and skip all the harsh lines. Now, you know, I have to work stamps in somewhere, and I really need to add another layer. This is me here. So I grabbed this new set. It's called Design Elements. I love all these different textures and patterns that you can add. And this kind of like cracking looked one, it kind of looks like a crackle finish. It looks really cool. So I grabbed my Toffee ink because I thought it would be a nice neutral color, and then I don't have to bring in another color to the background. I'm flipping over my Versamat so I can use the spongy side. It's perfect for stamping. And especially when you're stamping on a layout, it's nice to have a large piece of foam under there. Then I don't have to worry about accidentally stamping like half on and half off a little piece of foam. And I was really debating if I should do second generation or first generation, how dark I wanted this crackle look to be. And I chickened out from going with the dark version first because I was like, you know what, I just want to test it. And I'm really glad I did. That was a good move because it was a little bit too, I think it would have been too dark going with first generation. Second generation just added this nice subtle pattern and just a little bit extra interest. I do have quite a bit of white space up at the top, and this helped me kind of feel a little bit better about it. It was feeling kind of empty and blank and a little too much white space for me. So I'm just going to use my pieces and kind of move them around and see where I need to stamp this texture so that it actually shows up when I put my pieces on. There's nothing worse than going ahead and adding like a background stamp like this, and then you put all your pieces back and you can barely see any of it, right? It's all hidden by the time you get your pieces under there. So you're going to see a lot of like moving pieces back and forth, and that's just so I can get my placement pretty good and have enough of it showing so it actually makes a difference. Now, of course, if you are in a hurry and you want to just get your project done, you could definitely skip this step. This is not necessary, but it's the little things like this that really take pages to the next level for me, where I am super happy with them. It's not really that time consuming once you get going with it and kind of figure out what you want to do, but it just adds so much extra interest to your pages. And some of us are just in that more is more club, right? Am I right? If you were in the more is more club and you like adding these extra details to your layouts, leave me a comment down below and let me know that. Also, let me know what is your favorite extra to add. I'd have to say, usually stamping is a big one, or stenciling, ink blending. Those are some of my go-tos for adding extras. So I was thinking this is where my stamping was going to end, and then I decided I want to take that crackle stamp up the side to the top corner there. And I was really liking how that was looking, kind of filled in the blank spot that I had over there. But then, of course, over on the other side, I need to kind of balance that out because I felt like then I had way too much white space on the other side. Lately, I've been reading my daughter the If You Give a Mouse a Cookie books, and if you've ever read those, this is kind of what I was in that loop of, if you give a mouse a cookie, then he's going to need a glass of milk. If you add the stamping right here, you got to stamp it on the other page. And then once you add some stamping, you have to do some ink blending. So I went back with a paprika ink, and I loved how it looked behind the title, and I was like, what the heck? You know what? Let's just do it. I'm going to throw a little bit of paprika ink coming out from behind my clusters. So I just went ahead and did it. It really did not take me long because my brush was already really saturated with the ink. So I just added a little bit, tried not to go crazy with it, just kind of like a hint of color. And you know, that is another benefit of using sketches, is that the work of picking a design, the measurements of your paper, all those things are already decided. Pretty much the placement of your photos. I know because I was stretching this out, I did play around with the photo placement a little bit, but it's generally in the same spots that the photos were on the sketch. So I'm not putting energy into coming up with all those things, which means I can focus on the fun part, which for me is the embellishing. I love the embellishing, the building up of a background, the adding details until I kind of reach that point where I'm like, oh, I really like this. I want to stop. I have not quite reached that point with this layout, so I grabbed the cork shapes. These are part of the Gnomes for Autumn collection, and they are awesome. Now you do have to be careful because the cutouts in the middle of the leaves, they can kind of stretch out funny when you stick them down. These are self-adhesive. You just peel the backing off and then stick them down. But you just have to be careful with the ones that have the little leaves cut out. I also grabbed this Hello Pumpkin sticker from that Gnomes for Autumn sticker sheet. And in case you're wondering, I did adhere down all my embellishments off camera. So like the cluster of pumpkins there is up on some foam tape so that I have room to tuck those little cork shapes under. Same here, these little pumpkins are up on foam tape, but the floral arrangement in the back is flat. I also added this Welcome Autumn sticker. I just felt like the pumpkins needed something to rest on. And since I was adding these leaves everywhere, I decided to add them also to my title. Now, once I did that, I felt like the title kind of became a third embellishment cluster. So you can see on my left page now, I kind of have 3 clusters of embellishments and only 2 on the right-hand side. So I felt like I needed a third. So yes, I have way more embellishments than what is on the sketch, but this was just what I felt worked best for what I ended up doing. I also added my journaling off camera. I didn't have a ton to say about this day, so I just put a little bit right there above the photo. If I had more, I could have put it farther over to the right, or I could have even added strips down where I put that pumpkin, or even some lines underneath my title. Here I wanted to bring it up close, so in case you couldn't see that really nice crackle texture when it was down low, now you can see all the great little details. So even though I went a little bit heavier on embellishments than what the sketch showed, I like that each page has its little visual triangle, and it kind of just leads your eye through the page, through all the photos, till this last big cluster here. Now you might think that we are done, but we are not, because I promised you a card with this sketch. So I have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch white card base. For my papers, I actually just took the measurement, so the height of those strips, and cut it in half. So I did use the measurements that were in the sketch. I just cut them in half so that they would be a better size for my card. I grabbed another piece of that die cut ephemera, and this is like a nice little leafy wreath. I had a few other options, this little lantern. I thought that could be cool. I am using that really pretty thank you. It is stamped in Harbour ink and then die cut. That is part of the September special, Say It With Style. I'll show you the stamp set here in a second. I really debated this floral cluster, either with this thank you. I'm like, that could work. That actually looks really nice. But there's also smaller sentiments in this set. So I love how these ones have thin cuts to go with the big ones, but then also all of these tiny little strips. Sometimes you just need a really small strip sentiment, and I thought that would look nice right on that point where all the flower stems come together. But I decided, no, I'm going to stick with my initial idea and use the wreath. So I went ahead and adhered those off camera, just leaving a little gap of white showing between each strip. And now I figured I'll just repeat the elements that I used on my layout. I already figured out those things all look good together, so I might as well just continue on with that. So I'm adding paprika ink to that top part of my card base. It's a little tricky because it's a smaller format, so I wanted to make sure I got the ink out far enough to show around the edges of the wreath, but not so far that I was getting it way over the edge of the card. So I'm just trying to keep it centralized there and just kind of diffusing it out towards the edge. I'm also going to repeat that second generation stamping with that crackle stamp using the toffee ink. I think this card design would be super easy to reproduce a whole bunch if you wanted to even use this pattern for Christmas cards or something like that. Switch up the papers, switch up the icons. It could be a really fun and simple design where you could do a whole bunch at one time, and also really stretch your pattern paper. Because of the shape of the stamp, I did end up just inking up edges of it and just trying to get a little bit more of that pattern out towards the edge. So I kind of had to piece it together there, but it all worked out. It's a very random pattern, so that worked good. I used some thin foam tape to pop up my wreath and then some thicker foam tape on my thank you. So I have a little bit of dimension there, and then I grabbed the Cozy Up dots. I hadn't used these yet, and there is a glittery red one. And 3 sizes, you gotta have 3 sizes when you're working with dots, so you can kind of cluster them together. So I thought I would do the top and the bottom corners like this, and that worked out to be the perfect finishing touch for my card. And here is a close-up look so you can see that extra dimension on that thank you, how it's popped up higher than that wreath. And I love how this turned out. Now, if you want to see the rest of the creative design team's projects, just go ahead and click on this playlist right here. You can watch all of them. They've all been uploaded. And make sure you go register for 31 days of Christmas cards before that early bird code expires. Everything is linked down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.